United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Deb.
Is there another one of them up there?
Yes. Roll call, Deb.
Rodney?
Here.
Brooke?
Here.
Don?
Here.
Jody?
Here.
Harley?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum. Entertain a motion then to approve our agenda tonight.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Tonight I want to thank Colin Penton as our videographer. And as we're well aware, the positive cases of COVID-19 are on the rise in Algona and Kossuth County. We may be tired of the virus, but the virus isn't tired of us. Last I saw, Kossuth County had close to 800 positive cases of COVID. We made some changes here at City Hall with the way business is conducted. We're asking the public to be vigilant and cautious. We don't want and we can't afford businesses and schools closing again as they did last March. We can't overwhelm our healthcare system. Most importantly, we want everyone to stay healthy. With the holidays approaching, we're asking people to be careful at Thanksgiving. Limit the size of gatherings so you can have a Merry Christmas and a New Year. The spread is directly related to social gatherings, and because of the community spread of COVID, I've issued the following proclamation. This is a proclamation of the City of Algona regarding COVID-19 safety measures. Whereas the COVID-19 is a respiratory disease that can result in serious illness or death and is caused by a new strain of virus that was not previously identified in humans and can easily spread from person to person. And whereas the CDC and Iowa Department of Public Health have issued guidance to the public encouraging individuals to wear face coverings and practice social distancing in order to slow the spread of COVID-19. And whereas there are significant levels of community spread active in the state of Iowa, resulting in a recent increase in confirmed COVID-19 cases within the state and Kossuth County. And whereas it's critically important to protect the health and safety of residents, visitors, students, employees, and frontline workers from the spread of COVID-19. And whereas the City of Algona desires to provide leadership and support to implement wearing of face coverings and social distance practices. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Richard Murphy, Mayor of the City of Algona, Iowa, do hereby proclaim that, number one, the city encourages everyone to practice social distancing and wearing of face coverings when they are in close proximity of other persons, both in public and private locations, and that these practices should continue until substantial progress in curbing the spread of COVID-19 has been declared by public health officials. And number two, the city acknowledges Governor Kim Reynolds' proclamation and encourages residents to abide by the proclamations. So I dated and signed this as of last Friday, the 13th of November. So in short, we're just asking people to wear a mask, wear face coverings when in public, and limit the size of your gatherings. So we cannot take this virus lightly. Does the council have anything? Okay, we'll move then to an update from the city administrator.
A few different items. Last week's ice storm caused some pretty significant damage in terms of our trees and a lot of downed limbs. Crews have been busy all last week picking that up, and we will be continuing to pick up debris in the right-of-ways for the rest of this week through Friday. So if you have debris, you can put it in the right-of-way and it'll get picked up, but that will end this week. Second, I want to announce that starting tomorrow, City Hall will be closed to walk-in traffic. People can still come and meet with us by appointment only, but people can call first, email. Through our website, you can submit complaints or requests for service. So use those tools so we can conduct as much business as we can electronically. And then if necessary for some items that we need to meet in person, we'll schedule those appointments, and we'll be able to plan it such a way that we can make sure that we have enough space and enough time to clean afterwards to do so safely. So City Hall will be closed to walk-in traffic starting tomorrow. Third item is the Parks and Rec Department is selling a few different items that are currently listed for sealed bid. Just want to point people's attention to. So there's two pieces of equipment, the animal merry-go-round and the other merry-go-round that were pulled out of Veterans Park earlier this year. They're being sold as collectibles as is. Their intent is not to be used. But if persons are interested in those, the posts are on our Parks and Rec Facebook page, on Craigslist, and is on our city website under the bids section. And sealed bids for those are due this Friday at noon. That's November 20th. And then the other item is we have some pitching mounds that are about 9 feet wide and 11 feet long that we are currently selling as well. We'll be replacing them with a smaller, more user-friendly in terms of moving mounds. But those two are for sale by sealed bid, and those bids are due to City Hall by 12 p.m. on December 4th. And again, instructions for submitting those bids are on our website, or you can call City Hall for additional details. And then final item is just let people know that who are listening in that the governor will be speaking tonight at 6:05, making some announcements regarding COVID. I believe that's going to be on Iowa Public Radio as well as PBS. So encourage persons to tune into that, or I'm sure the news will be covering it tonight, tomorrow. But we're looking for some announcements from our governor this evening.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, this is the citizens' opportunity to address the council with items that are not on the agenda.
Yeah, I've got one. I'm on the phone.
Okay, please identify yourself.
Justin Runke.
Okay, thank you.
Are you ready?
Yes.
You ready for me?
Yep, go ahead, thank you. Yep.
I just want to let the council know how disappointed myself and a lot of other people are on the placement of the flashing speedometer sign that was placed on McGregor Street a week or so ago. Kendall Pals and I had a conversation back in August, and Kendall thought it would be around Durant Street, and he said it would be no farther east than Rome Street. And after the sign was placed where it's placed now, way down there on Main Street, I talked to Kendall himself. Kendall said he was personally offended and very upset of where the sign was placed. And I have a hard time accepting that the city council or the city administrator will not listen to a 40-year veteran of the town of Algona who's been up and down that street for 40 years. And his expertise was not taken into consideration when that sign was placed. There's 5 crosswalks between Sample Street and Rome Street. And there's 0 crosswalk from Rome Street to Finn Drive. It must be around Durant Street. and he said it should be no farther east than Rome Street. And, after the sign was placed where it's placed now, way down there by Main Street, I talked to Kendall himself. Kendall said he was personally offended and very upset of where the sign was placed. And I have a hard time accepting that the city council or the city administrator will not listen to a 40-year veteran of the town of Algona who's been up and down that street for 40 years. And his expertise was not taken into consideration when that sign was placed. There's 5 crosswalks between Sample Street and Rome Street. And there's 0 crosswalk from Rome Street to Finn Drive. So what is that sign doing as far east as Main Street? No one's crossing the street down there. It would be way more effective if it was farther west between Durant and Rome, where we thought it was going to be placed. When I heard that you guys were going to put that flashing speed sign up, I thought that's great. It would really help the situation between Sample and Rome Street there. It would let people know they're speeding when they come off the highway. But to put it where you put it now, it's doing nothing to slow down traffic in the area of the high school where you have 900 kids going every day. So I would hope the city council would reconsider where that sign was placed and move it farther to the west where Kendall Powell believes it should be.
Okay,
That's about all I got, I guess.
okay.
And I hope you guys take this into consideration.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
Did any council have any input on that? Rodney told me he was told it would not be any farther east than Rome Street.
Yeah, there was times when, I mean, I thought we weren't gonna go past Roan either. I'm assuming, as I talked to Jacob, he said something about the engineer and the signage that they worked with, and I'm willing to give it a shot. It seems a little far out to me, but where we maybe anticipated, but, I kinda thought it would be up a little bit more, into where a little more of a, I don't wanna say residential on both sides for that, and I do know the school has the 2 signage that goes on in the morning and afternoon, but truly it's probably 4 hours a day total, and then not nights or weekends. So I wonder myself, but I'm also, I can see what we can maybe check with Kendall and others. I think we need to continue to look at that. Is it too far out or is it not? And if it is, maybe we make a change if necessary. If it's appropriately placed, it might be. But again, myself, I thought it was maybe a little farther than I anticipated it. I was very happy we got it so quick, and the city staff worked very hard to get it into place. But I know we worked with an engineer on the signage and some placement of that. So I'm not also saying I'm that expert either. I'm just a citizen that, when I looked at it, thought it might be a little up farther too.
I'll just make a few statements. So we did have a staff meeting that Kendall was involved in, streets, Public Works, myself, when we looked at where that should be placed. The resolution that council approved for the signage scheme identified that sign going at a location to be determined based on the site conditions, things like the underground utilities, site distance, that was between Roan and Main. The sign where it's at now for eastbound traffic is at Ackley Street. I think you can make a reasonable case for that sign being further west. You can make a reasonable case for that sign being further east. We're trying to balance the corridor as a whole. When we looked at when eastbound traffic is driving and when they're most likely to speed up, and that field of vision really opens up, there's that downhill slope that this sign, right when, you know, you're starting to maybe feel like, okay, I can speed up, where it's still 30 and there's still residential there, that's when the sign is flashing. You know, certainly, we did, you know, purchase a sign that is not solar dependent. You know, it can be moved in the future, but again, examining the corridor as a whole, we thought this was the spot to in terms of striking that balance. Just leave it at that for now.
Okay,
Can I say something more to that?
sure, go ahead.
I think
Yes.
I don't know why the city is worrying about the corridor from Phillip Street all the way to Finn Drive. The problem between Phillip Street and Rome Street, that's where all the congestion is, that's where all the kids are walking across, that's where the traffic's turning. When you're east of Rome Street, there's nothing on the south side of the road. There's no reason for kids to be crossing the road down there. So if people do speed, it's less of a hazard out that far east. The problem needs to be controlled, needs to be slowed down from Rome Street west.
Okay.
So the sign getting that far east makes no sense.
Okay, thank you.
Justin, I want to interject my 2 cents on that. This is Mike. Hey, when we look at this project, we look at McGregor as a whole. We're not looking at just the school zone. We've had complaints from people all the way down by the Y. I mean, we got complaints when we moved the sign going west from the Y because it changed traffic for them. So we're looking not just at the school zone, we're looking at all of McGregor. So what we did when we brought this up initially, we said we're going to try this in phases. We're going to implement things, see how it works. We'll move things, we'll tweak things. Stop signs still are on the table. Everything's still on the table. So just because we made one decision doesn't mean this is done and over with. We want to look at this. I agree with Jacob. I think the sign currently is in a perfect location. Just even sitting and watching traffic, watching where people do speed up right at the crest of that hill as they're coming down, seeing that they see their speed, instantly slam on, hit the brakes. You can sit there all day and just watch people hit the brakes every time they see that.
That's why I would say it would make more sense to do it where there's more congestion.
I think that does make sense, but then we're looking also at, okay, do we add stop signs in the future? Do we, like I said, we're keep looking at this. We're looking at McGregor as a whole because, I mean, we still have cross-country kids running McGregor at night. We still have traffic up and down the Y all night. I mean, there's congestion out there on that end of town, and we still need to look at the whole street. It's, like Jacob said, once you get out there and that field opens up, people instantly just hit the gas and go. And I'll admit it, I've done it before too, so it keeps that in check.
So
Like I said, this isn't done by any means. I mean, we're still going to keep looking at it. So,
okay, so,
And another sign up, another flashing speed sign up.
okay, this is an issue that, as Mike said and Jacob has said, that we're continuing to look at. So we'll just leave it at that right now. We've got other items on the agenda. Thank you, Justin, for calling, and Mike also for your thoughts, and others too. So we'll move on then to the consent agenda, which includes approving the minutes from the November 2nd council meeting, approving the bills to be paid this cycle, approve a Class B beer permit from Premier Pizza, approve the department reports, approve minutes from the various boards and commissions that have met, as well as the administrator's report.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Vote, please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
yeah.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, motion carried, thank you. We'll move then to new business. Agenda item number 9 is to review and accept the 2019-20 audit report.
Our auditor, Erin Olson, with TP Anderson is here, and she's distributed copies of the audit, and we'll turn it over to her to speak.
Thanks, Jacob. So everybody has a packet in front of them. There's a lot of information in here, a lot of numbers, a lot of words. I'm go through a very high level, but please review it after Jacob has my information. If you have questions, please call me. So we'll go to page 2 to begin with, and this is my audit report. This is why the city pays us to come. It's my opinion on the financial statements. And I just want to point out a couple things on here. First of all, we've expressed a clean opinion, a great opinion on the financials, but there's two sort of carve-out or exceptions to our clean opinion. One is that the financial data from Algona Municipal Utilities is not being included in the financial statements. As a definition under the Code of Iowa, that falls as a component new to the city. It should be discreetly presented as a kind of a column on its own, and then presented as in total. But because the utility is on a calendar year end and under a different basis of accounting, under accrual basis, where the city's on the cash basis, we're not able to consolidate that information. For the state of Iowa, that is a very common finding. A lot of the utilities, when they were developed before the accounting standard of component units was even developed, they were different. They were on calendar year and on different ways of counting. So you'll see across the state that this is a very common issue. On page 3, the second carve-out has to do with defined benefit police pension plan, and we've reported on this for many years. That in accordance with the governmental accounting standard, that the city should pay an actuary to come in, kind of like you do for IFRS, and estimate if that plan is underfunded or what the total expected liability for the city is. And the city just has determined that it's not cost benefit, dependent on the cost benefit analysis. It's just not feasible to pay an actuary to come in and estimate that for you. So because those disclosures are not included here, that's our second carve-out. So after those two things considered, then everything else looks great. We've given you an unmodified opinion. There is some other information in the report, supplementary information that you'll see on schedules 1 through 5, that we present opinion and in relation to opinion. So as they relate to the financial statements, we're opining on those schedules. The other information, which is listed on the top of page 4, that has to do with the budgetary comparison, some of the schedules for the net pension liability. We are not expressing anything on that. So, kind of go through what our opinion looks like. We'll kind of take a quick look at the financial position of the city on page 5. One of the most important questions about a city's finances is, in general, is the city in a better off or a worse off position as a result of this year's activities? And this statement will help answer that question. All the other schedules and statements that follow this kind of roll up into this main statement here. So you can see on the far right column, the total cash basis of the city increased by 1.2 million this year, from 1.4 in the prior year to 8.6 as of June 30th, 2020. Of the $8.6 million of cash for the city, approximately 4.1 is unrestricted, and the rest of the balance is either committed, assigned, or restricted in some capacity. The largest contributor to the increase in cash this year was that the city received bond proceeds of about 1.9 million. Please remember, we took out that for the library project, the industrial park, Retief's park projects. And so a lot of times there are timing differences between receiving those bond proceeds and then paying out the capital expenditures, which was the case this year. Okay, we're going to move on and skip the rest of the audit report. I know everybody's bummed about that. We're going to go all the way to the findings on page 37. Just a general statement. We look at hundreds of compliance areas for the city. We look at internal control as it relates to the financial statement audit. So we're not coming in and doing an audit of internal control and looking at all the practices and procedures that the city does. So our findings here, just keep in mind that there's a lot of good that's being done in the city. That I'm required to report only the negative, but there's a lot more positive that's going on. So we'll go to page 39. In the first we've noted, and that we've noted for probably 20 years that we've been here, is there's segregation of duties, a issue that we've noted. A lot of our cities, I don't know one city that I do that doesn't have a segregation of duties problem. It's just that when you're dealing with a city this size, that it's not feasible for the city to hire enough employees to make sure that all of the transactions such as, reporting, reconciling, depositing, all of those steps cannot ever be handled by one person. I think the city does a great job of limiting that exposure, but there are at times where Deb could grab the mail, for a deposit, enter the deposit in the system, reconcile the deposit, and then report, print a claims listing, and then approve it. Just for you guys to be aware of that, some of the things that we recommend, and one thing that Jacob and I actually talked about this year, that the city is considering is to conduct an internal control audit or review, have a firm come in and sit and go through all the processes and create flow charts and kind of point out the areas where, maybe we could add a control here, or, there should be, 2 people handling this instead of 1. I know that the utility company has done that, and I think they had a positive experience. Just some other general areas which I know, the council has done a great job that I've witnessed in the past is ask questions, look at that claims listing, and don't be afraid to ask questions if something seems off or odd. I know the city has dual signatures on all their checks, so which is a great internal control. But you could also do things like grab a bank statement a couple times a year, and some, council member at random, and just look through it. Compare some of the checks that are being cleared to the claims listing. Make sure that you guys were made aware of all the checks. Make sure that there's no transfers going on. Nobody's transferring funds. Look at payroll registers. Make sure that nobody's getting 2 paychecks or getting paid at an improper rate. And just some little things like that that you wouldn't have to necessarily do at every meeting, but maybe just pick 1 or 2 months at random and have that information available to look at. The next finding has to do with the reconciliation of bank accounts. This has been an issue for the last several years. The city transferred all the information to a new accounting system this year. And I think that the new system is working great. It looks like the problem before was not all of the bank accounts were loaded on to accounting software. So there was a lot of manual checks and spreadsheets that was being done, that things were just getting mixed, like interest deposits on some little accounts and things like that, where now everything's loaded. The system helps grab all of the information, so that's a great step. And so this year was just kind of a year of working out the kinks of related to the new system, really, in my opinion. When we came, we found about $8,100 worth of checks that had already cleared the bank, but were still listed as outstanding. From talking with Deb, they had already identified those, but when we moved all the accounts onto the system, there's a lot of back and forth discussion on how to get everything correct. So it was in her opinion to just wait until after the audit to get that adjusted and to move forward with a clean slate. And so that's what we did. I think that was a great, that they had already identified those issues, just maybe waited to get them adjusted. And if you can see on page 40, that the response of the city is that all bank reconciliations from July forward have reconciled with no issues. C also has to do with the transition to the new accounting software. As you guys know, that the checking account of a city is very large, so there's a lot of things that need to be transferred over. And we just identified a couple of transfers that needed to be made to make sure that all the funds were in balance. So our recommendation is that although accounting system changes are rare, the city should implement procedures to ensure that all transactions are recorded in the city's financial records and that beginning fund balances are appropriately transferred. The last finding on page 41 has to do about the reconciliation of ambulance receipts. We always confirm with your ambulance billing company, how much receipts that they've had on their records to what the city says. We've always been off. Deb and I have worked on this in the past, but it hasn't been significant. And a lot of it has to do with timing. Our receipts come in at the end of the month. Sometimes it's just timing on both of their ends. Well, this year we were off by $30,000. So we said we need to really dive into this and look at, see what's going on. And so that did, and she worked with PCC, and they were able to identify all the variances to $0. So they could tell me exactly why it was off. But in that process, there were issues that were found, duplicate payments, some posting errors, that sort of thing. So just our recommendation is maybe we need to be doing that on a monthly basis, just to make sure that all those little things that can happen are being identified in a timely manner. And I think you guys have been doing that going forward. The next section has to do with findings related to statutory reporting. And so we'll go to 42, the last page. In accordance with governmental auditing standards, if you have a special revenue fund, you should not have deficit balance. And there was one fund, the grants fund, that at June 30 had a deficit balance of $500,000, so that's going against Iowa code in that. And it basically is just a timing of receipts. There was a lot of disbursements paid from the airport improvement project that the city was waiting on grant dollars to come in that they'll get in the next fiscal year. So that's not uncommon. The next finding has to do with public improvements. So one of the compliance areas that we look at has to do with public bidding. And anytime you have a project going on, there's Iowa code that talks about, if you're over a threshold, you have to do public bidding, you have to hold hearings and all those sorts of things. So we just pick a project that ranges them during the year. And so we picked a frost boil repair project that had cost about $275,000 that we asked to see all the compliance areas for, so the public bidding, etc. Well, it was under the city's impression that that didn't qualify for public bidding because it was an emergency repair. So we worked with the state on that. The state came back and said, well, actually, in accordance with Chapter 384.103, if you do have an emergency repair, you still have to get okay from a licensed engineer. That gives you a certificate that says this is an emergency. The city doesn't have time to conduct all of the public biddings and public hearings that are necessary to get the work done that needs to be done. So our finding is that we did not procure a certificate that says that those were necessary and emergent. And the response was that the city administrator at the time of the damages were occurred, that he was still a professional licensed engineer in Iowa, so that maybe it was just an oversight. And so our response is just, either preparing a certificate to make sure that public bidding requirements are not applicable for those types of projects. Anything you want to add, Jacob or Deb?
Yeah, I'll just make a few quick comments.
Okay.
Yeah, we've looked at doing a version of an internal audit. I don't need a full board because we only have a limited staff, but identifying what duties make sense to maybe rotate, and then having a process laid out that's written down, just in terms of succession planning, that would be useful. So I think there's a variety of reasons to look at doing that we're going to explore doing this coming year. As Aaron said, with the conversion with our software, anytime you do a bunch of moving data from one system to another, it's not going to be perfect. We were able to identify and resolve all those discrepancies, and now that we're reconciling monthly, that should address any issues moving forward, and all of our accounts are now in one software system as opposed to being in two different spots. And then on the finally the public improvement one, those were the frost boil repairs that we had after that horrendous winter. FEMA provided funding for that, so that's kind of a good indication of was a disaster and was an emergency. And also, so the city administrator at the time was a licensed professional engineer who signed off on the project. So, in my interpretation, I'm comfortable saying that we follow the spirit of the law. In terms of actually having a technicality of having a certificate produced, we did not have that done. We should have had that. And moving forward in emergency repairs, we'll just have to have that certificate produced. When it comes to repairing those frost boils, I think the analogy I came up with is like having to have an architect tell you that your house needs to be painted. It's kind of obvious when you have, feet of street to see, but nonetheless, we should have had that certificate prepared.
Well, it looks like a couple of the items were basically transferring over to the new software, and hopefully in the future, we won't see those again.
Yeah, but they were rectified, and going forward, we know what's going on, so.
You mentioned about council coming in or, taking a bank statement every so often. We do have 6 council members. I mean, if we all took a month, I don't know how difficult it'd be for Deb just to match invoices with checks. We'd only have to do it 2 months, maybe a Friday before a council meeting. Is that a better internal control? That would be, just do something simple like that. If we could work with our city clerk to be able to, just have those laid out so we know at least every bill or invoice that was, everything, check that went out had an invoice and a receipt to it and why it went out. I don't know how difficult that'd be, but it'd only be a couple months spread out for each council member to do it.
Right.
2 months out of the year. And I'd be willing if that would help with that.
Yeah, I have a lot of councils that do that. They
Okay.
don't do every month, but they'll, the week before the council will say, hey, I want to look at 2 months ago, can you pull up when we have it ready? So it's a surprise and it changes, and we just do a couple months out of the year, that's great control.
Okay.
And then if a lot of times fraud within the city, there's 2 main areas that I see, and, that are most common is payroll. They're paying more than the amount of checks. So the amount is right, the rate is right, but they're maybe getting more than they should. Rates are being wrong, so payroll is always a great thing to look at. And then also fraudulent invoices. So even if you are looking into matching invoices up, ask the question, why are we paying this vendor, this construction company for this amount? I thought we paid, we were paying this vendor or, et cetera. So those are all
Okay.
things to keep in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I entertain a motion then to accept that audit report.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then to accept the audit report. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, vote please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 10. This is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2020 annual financial report.
All right, each year on December 1st, we have to report our, basically our end-of-year financials to the state, more or less as a summary of the financials that are set forth in the audit. This approves the end-of-year financial statement and authorizes the clerk to submit that to the state.
Motion to approve the resolution for the 2020 annual financial report.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the financial report. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 11 is a resolution approving the urban renewal report.
This is another one of those annual reports that are due to the state December 1st of every year. For urban renewal, that's commonly referred to as TIF, or tax increment financing, which is a tool within urban renewal. Basically what the city has paid out through that program in a year. We have 2 active TIF projects, which both are development agreements that in exchange for a certain level of development, and in one case for a certain level of development and jobs, that the city rebates a percentage of the taxes paid for a set period of time. So it's basically fulfilling that obligation. That development agreement, the way it works is that the entity has to first pay the taxes, and then the city, some of those taxes aren't actually captured, are rebated back based on that agreement. So we had 2 TIF agreements that were paid this year to Cribbins Investment, which is White Transfer at $73,578, and the other was FD Algona LLC, or Fauch Brothers, the Overland Apartments, and that rebate was for $53,540.
Motion to approve the urban renewal report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the urban renewal report. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 12, approving a resolution with a grant application with the Algona Police Department.
This is a resolution for the police department for a grant application. They intend to request $3,535.12 in order to purchase ballistic helmets and police radio earpieces. So this is a resolution in support of that application and approving its submittal.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second then to approve this grant application. Any other discussion? Hearing none, vote please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Agenda item number 13 is a resolution pertaining to the airport.
So this is an item that we discussed during the work session, but is the airport improvement program and capital improvement program. More or less our plan for projects in the next 5 years, and the cost estimates for those, and then the city committing to the local share of those projects to be matched with the FAA and DOT grants.
Motion to approve the airport improvement program and capital improvement program.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Agenda item number 14 pertains to the garbage rates for dumping.
Yes, and I just want to make a point of clarification. We show it as a resolution approving the garbage rates, which upon further review and consultation with the city attorney is an inaccurate way to go about this. Based on the city code in terms of the garbage providers, we don't approve the rates, more or less. We just have to acknowledge them and the rates have changed. So item number 14 should just be a motion acknowledging the proposed rate changes that Dumbit has submitted, which were included with that resolution, which was inaccurate.
I'll move that we acknowledge the report that they provided us.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried, thank you. Agenda item 15 is a resolution approving loan agreement.
This is for a proposed loan agreement between the city and our retail revolving loan fund and Algona Axe House LLC, owned by Tim Zenel, who is proposing to open up a new sports bar to feature various entertainment, including axe throwing. This will go towards the purchase of the property. The RLF committee met and recommended approval of the loan, which will be secured with a mortgage on the property.
I'd move to approve and say, yeah, they've piqued my interest. Might have to go see what that's about.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? You hear about something like this in other parts of the country. So I'm really excited this is coming to Algona. I mean, people have gone to Phoenix to do this, I've heard, so this is cool. Vote, please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah.
Motion carried, thank you. Agenda item number 16 is to approve a pay app to the airport.
So this is the third pay application for the install hangar extension that's going on there right now. This pay application is for $189,213.88. The engineer has reviewed and recommends approval. We anticipate maybe one more pay app or two before retained. The project's really close to wrapping up. Should have some punch list items completed the next week or two, and then it'll be finished. So this may say maybe one more pay application, and that project will be wrapped up.
Motion to approve the pay application.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the pay application. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Agenda item number 17 pertains to the industrial park preliminary plat.
The city has prepared a preliminary plat for the industrial park land that was purchased here this last year. So the review and approval process for that is for council to refer that to planning and zoning for their consideration, and it'll come back to council then prior to the next meeting.
Move to refer to P&Z.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to refer this to planning and zoning. Any other discussion? Hearing none, vote please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried, thank you. Agenda item number 18 is to set a public hearing date for the rezoning of the industrial park.
Yes, so at the last meeting, we set the public hearing date, but I had a conflict with in terms of publication and when we were looking to have that hearing, so are resetting it for the hearings proposed to be on December 7th at 5, and that will review the proposed rezoning of that property from agricultural to heavy manufacturing.
Motion to approve, set the public hearing for December 7th at 5 p.m.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then to set the public hearing for our next council meeting, December 7th at 5 p.m. Any discussion? Vote please.
Rodney?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah.
Motion carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 19 is to approve a temporary banner for the upcoming turkey trot.
So the annual turkey trot sponsored by Pharmacists Mutual and Rotary in Algona, they were going to hold the event this year, and then received word today that we're going to plan on doing a virtual race. So the item in terms of the start finish line banner, there's no need to take any action on that. Is anyone by chance on the line from one of those entities? All right, well, I'm just going to say that I know they're going to be doing a virtual event, try to still raise some funds for the food bank, so I encourage people to check their Facebook page or tune into the local news to find out how they can still participate in that and support a good cause. So.
Okay, thank you. Move into agenda item number 20. This is just a notification, the first notification that Mark Erpelding and Jared Weikert's terms expire on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and this is a council appointment. That's the first notification. Agenda item number 21 is a notification of Jeff Knapp's term expires on the Housing Commission, and that's the first notification. It expires the 1st of January 2021, and that's a mayoral appointment. Agenda item number 22 is a notification of Marty Fondley's term expires the end of this calendar year on the Broadband Telecommunications Commission.
Mayor, a quick note on that, Bernie Merrill's term also expires on December 31st at 2028. Wasn't included in the memo. So
Okay.
clarification for both those spots.
So we have two of them then to fill. And that's also a council appointment there. And then agenda item number 23, this is the final notification of terms expiring on the tree board. The terms of Jeremy Prothman and Lyle Prunty expire this year. And then agenda item number 24 are appointments to the tree board. It looks like there are 4 seats on that board that need to be appointed.
Well, I had talked with Scott Rath, and he was interested in it, so I would move to appoint him.
Okay?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then to appoint Scott Rath to the tree board. Any discussion?
Thanking Scott for his willingness.
Right? Okay, vote please.
Rodney,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Harley,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you, and thank you, Scott, for your willingness to serve.
And I also know Jeremy Brockman, he's interested in continuing to serve as well. And Lyle had previously indicated that as well, but I have not talked to him recently to verify that.
Okay,
With that information, I'd move that Jeremy Prothman be, I'd move that he be appointed also.
okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then to reappoint Jeremy Prothman. Any discussion? Vote please.
Rodney,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Harley,
Yes.
Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you, Jeremy.
I can try to follow up with Lyle if you'd like me to by the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then besides him, we still need one more
One more,
though,
yep.
so we need
Need
to
one
keep
more.
looking.
Yeah.
Anybody interested, let us know.
Yeah. Good, okay, making some headway there. And then there are some other with broadband, and there are other 2 that we need to be planning and zoning looking towards, so. Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda, and before I ask for a motion to adjourn, just remind everyone to have a safe Thanksgiving holiday. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, meeting adjourned. Thank you.